Oftentimes, what our brain wants to do is put all of the responsibility on the kid's behavior. Welcome to the Connect Method Parenting Podcast, where correction is out, connection is in, and your kids want to listen to you. I'm Andy Martineau, creator of Connect Method Parenting, here to help you stay calm, confident, and connected no matter what. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Connect Method Parenting Podcast. I'm so glad you're here. We're diving into a really important topic today, and you're going to want to be here for all of it. This podcast episode is a workshop that I taught a while ago about how to stop yelling. It's a question I get all of the time from moms. It's hard. I get it. It's hard to not yell when our kids misbehave and we feel like we've explained to them why they shouldn't do the thing. Maybe they've even agreed to do it, and yet they still do the thing that they've told us or that we've talked to them about not doing. It's easy to get riled up. I 100% get this. That's why I'm going to share with you this How to Stop Yelling workshop today. I go into detail around the mindset and the practical tools that you're going to use when the off-track behavior comes or when you get dysregulated and you feel like you're going to yell. We're going to dive into all of it today. So pull out a piece of paper, a pen, get ready to take some notes. If you're in league with me right now, if you're studied and implementing Connect Method Parenting with me right now, enjoy this workshop and then jump into an office hours call if you have questions and we can dive into it even more. All right, y'all, let's jump to the workshop. Welcome, welcome. We're going to start by talking about some thoughts and beliefs that a lot of my clients come to me with, because there are a lot of misconceptions about what your kids' behavior mean. And at the root, that's a lot of what's happening. Why our emotions are so triggered, yell, and we lose control and we feel hopeless and helpless. So we're going to talk about what behavior actually means. You're going to start relearning what to believe and think about your kids' off-track behavior. We're also going to dive into 10 very common misconceptions. I call them thought errors. Most parents have when dealing with off-track behavior. I've coached so many moms one-on-one, taught it to thousands of people, and I've distilled it to the most common mistakes we make when it comes to viewing and interpreting our kids' behavior. Then I'm going to teach you a very specific process that helps me stop yelling faster than anything else, which is my 5-step stop yelling process. And I'm going to walk you through that entire thing. And I'm also going to take you through the 3 CMP strategies, which are the most amazing connective strategies that you'll ever hear. It's going to turn things around for you. And I'm also going to talk about the psychology I carry inside of me, the thoughts that I believe about my child's behavior and that I'm thinking when my kids have off-track behavior. This combination of things has allowed me and so many other parents to stop yelling, get them to want to listen to you, build stronger relationships, all of those things. So what I want to ask you all to do for me right now is to tell me your biggest parenting problem. If you could only say there's one problem you're having, what is that biggest problem? I want you to pop it in the Q&A. That I yell continuously. Whining kids, it grates on me. Sibling relationships, I react before thinking. My go-to is yelling. I get it, Amanda. Kids not respecting me. Yes. Kids won't listen to me. They're not taking me serious. Disconnection with my emotions and kids' emotions causes me to yell. Karen, my stepdaughters do not connect, but butt heads constantly. Yeah, that sibling rivalry is a big struggle for moms. Disrespect between siblings, name calling. Yeah, this has been something, it's fascinating because through each age and stage, my last 2 are a year and 5 days apart. They should have been Irish twins. Number 5 was 3 weeks early. Number 6 was 2 weeks early. But due date wise, they were Irish twins. I understand this dynamic of the kids fighting for multiple reasons. Connect Method Parenting is going to give you the tools to know how to navigate it because kids are kids. Even as adults, we lose our minds sometimes. This isn't about perfectionism. This is about being calm, confident, and connected no matter what. So I love what you guys are saying in there. Let me see, a couple more I'll read and then I'll keep going. That I have a hard time controlling my temper, that I'm not patient enough. I do see a couple of you talking about your part in the problem. I'm having problems with patience or I'm reacting. It's beautiful, all of it, to see all of it. Here's the kids' behavior. Here's the way I'm responding to them that's contributing. When people reach out to me, when they send my company emails, when they send us an instant message on IG, they're saying a lot of the things you guys are saying. Because here's what's really fascinating is that a lot of us, and this is me included in this, that back in the day that I believed, and this is the first thought error, I believed that the kids' behavior was the problem. I know on our highest level of thinking, we're like, I know it's not totally the problem. I know sometimes I'm contributing to it, but oftentimes thinking also, but if they weren't so needy or whiny or they didn't hit each other, then life would go better. Although that is true, oftentimes what our brain wants to do is put all of the responsibility on the kids' behavior. And the biggest difference I want you to understand in what I teach that might be different than other parenting advice, books, experts you listen to, is that instead of focusing on the correction, which is a lot of times we're focused on their behavior and we're like, we got to stop their behavior. I mean, it's going to stop, but it's all about where are we focusing and where is the locus of control at as we begin that journey. And so instead of focusing on how do I get them to stop fighting, we dig to the root of it. It's the difference between having a fruit tree. Let's say we had an apple tree. I've never had a successful apple tree. I had one in Arizona, but it got ruined. Anyway, so it's like having the apple tree and saying the apple tree is not working. The fruit's not producing the way it's supposed to, or maybe the fruit's not good. And me trying to solve the problem by putting ointment on the fruit, putting water on the fruit, putting fertilizer on the fruit, and missing the reality that the solution is getting to the roots of that tree and figuring out what is going on at the core of the tree. And so that's how I want you to think about this. It's not that we're not going to have beautiful apples. We are. We're just going to do it by getting to the root, and then the tree will naturally produce better fruit. I focus on connection, on deepening the relationship. Sure, we have to set limits. I'm going to go into that, but we're going to do even that through the lens of connection. And we're going to connect, not to try to get them to do something. I've had this, and this was me at the beginning. A lot of moms and dads I work with, they'll come to me and they'll have this sneaky desire to say, I want to connect so that the kids listen better. And the kids pick up on that. They're amazing mappers. We have to connect for connection's sake, not to try to once again get them to do something. So we connect for connection's sake, and we connect for the goodness of it, for the value of it, the worthiness of it. Connecting even if they create a baby powder blizzard, even if they're fighting with each other. I know you love them. Don't get me wrong. I know you love them. It's about staying calm in our nervous system so that we can stay present with that love and connection with them, even when they're acting out. And then, of course, when everything's going well. So correction-based parenting, or what we just call parenting in the Western world, relies on consequences, timeouts, rewards, ultimatums, grounding, thinking that I have to come up with a consequence or a reward to incentivize them to do or not to do something. And that's how we're going to get the kids to listen. I want to just make sure we're all clear. That's the mindset that most of us have adopted. So we have to understand what that is so that we can start to backpedal and come away with something different. Connection-based parenting, or as I call it, connect method parenting, relies on relationships. It relies on ownership. We'll talk more about that, but really understanding how we're contributing to the situation. No shame, no blame, but just getting curious about that. And a higher level of emotional intelligence. I call parental emotional intelligence. And it's that combination of things that is going to have the cumulative effect of getting our kids to want to listen to us better. That's when we get that beautiful fruit that comes spontaneously, it seems, but it's spontaneously through the work at the root. So you don't need all those tips and tricks to get your kids to listen to you, because when you understand connect method parenting, your kids will want to listen to you, and you're going to be so much more equipped to not yell when things go off track. Which brings us to the next thought error, which is parents believe managing the kids' behavior or telling them what they can and can't do is the essential part of parenting. And that's what I believed, that I was a manager of their behavior so that I could sculpt them into the most amazing people and humans. And then I could be so proud of myself and so proud of them. But the essential part of parenting is creating an environment where they can thrive and fulfill their potential. That's the essential part of parenting. Parenting is more like being a gardener and less like being a sculptor. Think of your children like little seeds. You have no idea what they're going to turn into. Are they going to be a tulip? Are they going to be a daisy? Are they going to be an oak tree? One's not better than the other. They're just very different. And our job is to figure out how to keep them moving forward and progressing so they can fulfill their potential. So that's the essential part of parenting. A sculptor would look at their child like a piece of marble, and they would think it's my job to create a masterpiece from this really rough, rugged stone. You can see how, if that's your mindset, when things are looking great, you're giving yourself a high five and patting yourself on the back. And yes, child, you're doing amazing. And when things are going off track, you're blaming yourself and trying to fix the child to fit this mold or this sculpture that you're trying to create. It's just not healthy. It doesn't work. First of all, it's just not our role. We don't have that ability to decide what our child's going to turn into. We have the responsibility to help them become the best version of themselves. And being able to approach everything that's going on with our kids as best as we can, or recover quickly. I'm not going to tell you I get it right every time. I'm just really good at recovering. If I slip, if I'm tired, if I'm sick, if something's happened and I lose it, go back and repair or handle things so much better. 9 times out of 10, I'm able to navigate really tricky situations that totally would have thrown me off before in a connective way. And that's what my clients see too. It is a big mind shift to stop believing that we need consequences, because you've gone from spending a lot of time and energy and effort trying to figure out how you're going to get your kids to do this, that, or the other, to stop whining, to stop hitting, to start doing their homework, to get in the car when they're supposed to go to bed when you ask. And you've believed that if you could just figure out the right thing, then all of a sudden, voila, everything would be amazing. However, the fact that we're having this conversation and so many parents struggling with being the kind of parent they want to be shows us that consequences and rewards, it's just not the strategy that actually works. If it did, we'd all be pros and our kids would be, yes, mom, thank you very much for that feedback, for taking my privileges away. I'm so thankful. I definitely learned to never do that again, said no child ever. This is exhausting and one of many reasons why it doesn't work. And I'm not going to go into the whole history lesson of this. If you want to take my free course, I have a whole probably 10 minutes I spend on the history of how we arrived at corrective parenting as our default parenting philosophy. We just call it parenting. So go check that out. The brief version is around World War II, and they proved that humans can be trained just like pigeons and rats. But we have this thing called prefrontal cortex and this higher level thinking. So it doesn't translate, but we've believed it hook, line, and sinker. As we transition into, connect method parenting is understanding that telling my kids what to do or not to do from a corrective, frustrated, fueled by a negative emotion, it's just not going to work. Thought error number 3, parents believe I can't change my behavior. I'm such a mess. I've tried 1,000 times. I have a character flaw. Can't do it. I remember thinking that they're just patient and empathetic and compassionate people. And I'm obviously, now that I'm a parent, seeing how not empathetic and not patient and not great I am. This is not true. Being patient is something we can develop. We want to be a good parent. It's important to us. When we are motivated sufficiently to move forward in something, we will figure out how to do it. And with Connect Method Parenting, we untangle all of that stuff that's holding you back from being able to change, calm that freaking nervous system down, and understand how to not react in a way that was not helpful for you or your child. That I'm talking about with my one-on-ones and my group program. One of the reasons this doesn't work, and I want to put this in your brains if this is your issue, and if you're just full of self-love for yourself, high five, virtual high five to you. That's amazing. But for a lot of us moms or dads, but I tend to see moms being more critical of themselves. I want you to realize that critical voice in your head is not helping you. It's actually re-triggering your nervous system. A lot of us have heard the terms fight, flight, fawn, freeze. I'm just going to use fight or flight, but know that it encompasses all the nervous system activation states. When we go into fight or flight, we're trying to protect ourselves against a perceived danger. When we are criticizing ourselves, we are endangering ourselves. We are our own worst enemy. We are the one attacking ourselves. So our nervous system goes against ourselves. We're in this state of fighting internally against ourselves. We're being so mean to ourselves, and our nervous system's like, this isn't safe to have someone be so mean to us, even though it's really us. And we're stuck because when we're in a fight or flight state, we are not able to access the highest part of our brain. The body puts us into this autopilot mode, and we're not going to make any change or growth from that place. We can't think about things logically. We can't be kind and compassionate. We're in a frenetic energy state. And so it's not criticism that we need to change, but consistent curiosity when we're being unkind to our kids or we're freaking out about something, we want to look at it because we want to do better in the future, but we want to do it from the place of such a kind, loving place. I put my hand on my chest, especially when I was really going through the thick of this and saying, oh, sweetie, oh, darling, you're doing your best. Let's just look at this. Let's just look at this. I used to think I was the worst mom ever, and I stayed in that cycle for years. I don't want that for you. I didn't realize that being gentle to myself was an option that was viable, that would actually move me forward. I remember when I was talking to someone and I was explaining my desire to change and be a better parent, and then my method for doing it. I was in high research mode and I was really critical and mean to myself. And she said to me the most profound thing. I'm so grateful. She said, why don't you try being gentle with yourself? And I literally responded back to her, is that possible? Is that an option? What's that about? I was so in the corrective mindset, which is linked to corrective parenting. I've got to be quick and decisive and abrupt and firm and correct you and lecture a little bit. That mindset of got to come down hard on you or you're not going to learn your lesson. I was still uncovering at that point the reality that's actually not how anyone learns a lesson. They learn lesson through kindness and gentleness, which includes how we learn it for ourselves. If you struggle with that, please take a deep breath, recognize that you're normal and that you need to be curious, not critical. That is how you're going to change to the next version of yourself. I give you permission and it will work so much faster. Thought error 4. Yelling means I'm flawed, or yelling means there's something wrong with me. This is a sister thought error to the last one we talked about, but I wanted to pull this out specifically because yelling is a nervous system response. Mic drop. That's all it is. It's just a nervous system response. It's not a character flaw. When you yell, your nervous system is activated. That's it. You've had a story that's been embedded in your subconscious that your nervous system decided it needed to protect you from to keep you safe. So let's say there's so many ways this could happen. Let's say that as a kid, this is hypothetical, but let's just say as a kid, your mom really couldn't handle messes. And if your room was even the slightest bit messy, she would give you some really corrective consequences. She would take things away. She would yell. She would do something that would make you feel like, oh my gosh, it's not okay that my room's clean. And so your nervous system could have, some of us, it will make this story and some of us, it won't, could have potentially made a story that it's not safe to have a messy area because the repercussions from an adult that's taking care of us are so great that it's not safe. So we've got to just make sure everything's clean because we cannot handle that kind of feedback. Or could be on the flip side. It could have been nobody cared about messes at your house. They were just everywhere. It was gross and there were dirty, rotting things all over, or some version of that. And your brain was like, this is not safe. I need things clean. I can't find things. Nobody's taking care of the house and taking care of what we need. And so then your nervous system created a story that needed to be clean. I'm just giving you 2 examples of how you might have created a story that things have got to be clean. This is very common. It could have been formed 1,000 other ways. And it doesn't necessarily matter that you go into the deep, dark reaches of your brain and you discover your story, as long as you're just aware that there is a story that was made, that was done out of the best intent of my nervous system to try to keep me safe. It's been there for a long time and it's causing me to overreact to something. My baby powder blizzard experience was a great example of that. I don't know exactly why that was so challenging for me necessarily, the messes of my kids. I think for me, it had to do with not feeling in control. And I had a warped idea of what that would look like and how I would feel in control. That was not accurate, but I was trying to grasp for that. And so it felt really unsafe to me. And my nervous system went, really big reaction. Whatever the case may be, if we're yelling about things, what I love to see is that there is a story there. Interesting. I would like to start inspecting that story. I would like to see how that story is not serving me anymore, or how that situation that my nervous system thinks it needs to protect me from, it doesn't need to protect me from. The baby powder blizzard is not dangerous or life-threatening. The kids fighting, it's not life-threatening. Yeah, I want to help them learn how to not have contention, but conflict is a normal part of human life. Let me deconstruct the difference between conflict and contempt. That kind of thing. Do you get what I'm saying? The kids not doing their chores, it doesn't mean that they hate me and that they don't respect me. What does that mean? Maybe it just means that our relationship is off. Or maybe it means I haven't communicated the chores to them. It's information. these stories that we have that are triggering our nervous system to go onto high alert and tend to make us yell if we're a yeller. Or I was talking to a friend yesterday and she's not really a yeller, but I'm an avoider. So that would be a different nervous system response. A yeller response is a fight. That's why I use that out loud, because that was mine. But some people are freeze or flee or fawning. So we're having a nervous system response of some kind. And whatever that response is, I like to think about it like clouds floating through the sky. So you're the big blue sky. That's you. You're amazing. You're worthy. You're whole. You're complete. But then you have these clouds floating by. Not a problem. They can be in the form of a nervous system reaction, an emotion, a story, a thought. We have these things coming through the brain. And our job is to see that those are not us. But because they're present, we want to acknowledge them and understand them so that we can decide which ones I want to grab onto, which ones I want to just let float on by. And that's what I 16 years ago did with the baby powder blizzard. It wasn't because I intentionally did it, but that's what I did. I detached myself from the meaning I was putting on the mess and was able to navigate the situation differently. So now I would say I saw it as a cloud and it just floated by. That's one way to visualize it. My son is living in Chile right now, and we were talking the other day. He was explaining Spanish. And I've known this fact about romantic. I think all romantic languages do this. I know French does and Spanish does, but because he's now speaking it, we were having this conversation. He said, Mom, do you know how you told me that I have emotions or I have experiences or I have nervous system reactions, but they're not me? And I'm, yes. And he's, I see it now in Spanish. That's how they talk. They say I have frustration, but in English, we say I am frustrated. It's a very immature way to talk about emotions. It's not accurate. So this difference as English speakers is important to start to understand. We can differentiate ourselves from these reactions we're having. I have this frustration that caused me to have a nervous system reaction of yelling. Do you see how all of a sudden you can start to understand and navigate that so much better? This is the work I do with my one-on-ones. This is the work we do in league, because understanding it is one thing. Implementing it is a whole nother thing. That's when we learn how to actually start to pull apart the areas of our life that we need to renegotiate. Okay, we got to keep going because I have so much for you. So much for you. Fact, you're giving too many consequences and corrections. Truth. Hashtag truth. What I would love for you to do is pop it in the Q&A. How many consequences or corrections are you giving every day, every week? Will you pop that in there? Because I want to do a little bit of math. This is such a fun exercise. So everyone do that. I'm going to take a drink of water. Pop in how many times, either if you want to do it on a daily basis or a weekly basis, how many times are you giving a correction or giving a consequence? And then I do want to acknowledge that some of you guys are putting in more questions. I'm going to answer questions at the end. Yes, I'm going to answer questions at the end. And then you're like, I need to know about what you're talking about with the league. Yes, I will talk about that at the end too. Okay, I am seeing 2 a day, 24 a day, 3 to 5 a week, 20 times. You guys are so awesome. Okay, 24 times a day, 3 to 5 times a week, 20 times 7 kids. So funny. I love it. I get it. I don't know if I'm going to say your name right. Atasha? I'm probably saying it wrong, but I like it. That was me. Mine was 500 times a day. Okay, 2 to 3 times a day. Yeah, it's pretty typical. I get it. And sometimes it's 2 to 3 times a day times the number of children that we have, because we're giving that many to each. Or sometimes there's one of our kiddos that's a little extra prone to pushing boundaries, so they get more. Yes, it used to be 10 to 12 times a day when my 2 oldest were under 10. Yeah, those littler kids, there seems to be the tendency for us to want to do a lot more of that course correction in a critical way. Yeah, and as they get older, they usually become less frequent, but longer in duration, because we're lecturing or we're explaining or we're trying to have this logical argument with them. Yes, you are welcome, Natasha. And I'm sorry if I'm botching your name, but I totally get that, because when I was in the throes of 6 kids and they were all 8 and under, man, I gave a lot of consequences. Okay, so what I want to do is a little bit of math. I'm going to do 10 a week. So that would be 40 a month, and 520 of the interactions you're having with your kids every year is consequences. We're going to slow down for a minute and think about this, because there is a cost to every correction or consequence we give to both us and our child and to the relationship, especially if that consequence is fueled by frustration, irritation, annoyance, any negative emotion. There's a cost to that. What there's not a cost to that we're going to talk about later is a connective limit. I don't like to use the word consequence because we have that link to punitive consequences. So we use a different word to get us into a different way of thinking and seeing. But let's say we're giving 10 a week. So let's say that on average, it takes about 5 minutes per consequence. That's what we're going to go with on here. 5 minutes per consequence or correction. That's a timeout. Maybe they're blowing up because they're not going to do their homework. And the interaction you're having with, no, you got to do your homework right now when you're going to go into that whole thing. So that's 50 minutes a week. This is on the low end. I was double or triple this. So almost 4 hours a month is spent in that kind of interaction. And this is so low because it's not counting the aftermath of it. It's not talking about repairing it or trying to have a conversation. We're just talking about the actual interaction you're having when you're saying, no, you can't have a cookie right now. And then it goes back and forth for a while. Okay. But that's almost 44 hours a year. That's time spent in this place of bumping up against their nervous system with your nervous system in a negative way, which is so fascinating. We need to have limits and boundaries, not passive here. The studies very much show that passive parenting is just as detrimental as authoritative parenting. So we don't want to do that either. We have to figure out the middle ground. This is the beautiful part, is this middle ground. Let's go to the next thought air. We think consequences teach lesson. This is typically the justification for why we give them. We're like, well, responsible parents give consequences because we have to teach the lessons. And if I don't give them a consequence, they're not going to learn things. They're just going to become this derelict, or is that the right word? Defiant. I don't know what the right word is. Really push boundaries, not productive. They're going to not live their best life. They're going to sleep on the couch for the rest of their life or be a bum and not have a job and blah, blah. Our brains go into that, right? So we think we need consequences to teach lessons, but consequences don't teach lessons, everyone. Should I say that again? Consequences, punitive consequences, do not teach lessons. They don't. They create safety, whether we're giving it in a punitive, hopefully we're not giving it in a punitive way. But when we're creating boundaries and limits, they teach the lesson of avoid mom at all costs when she's in that kind of a mood, or when you do this, tell her a lie so that she doesn't get mad at you. They teach those kinds of lessons. Just don't push back, don't ruffle her feathers, and then you'll get less of a consequence or whatever. They teach them to navigate us when we're fired up and have a nervous system reaction, but they don't teach a lesson of, hey, have integrity, be kind, be thoughtful, be compassionate, be responsible. Those are the lessons we're trying to teach, and consequences don't teach that. So consequences can create safety, they create structure, they create boundaries. Corrective consequences don't do what we think. And connective consequences, or what I call limits, are helpful. They create boundaries, and we need those. Our kids need to know, okay, here's the parameter of my life. This is when I go to bed. Homework has to be done before we watch TV. I was just having this conversation with one of my daughters. We didn't go on vacation all summer and then went really late because of a situation with one of the kids. And so they missed the first week of school. And so she's got so much homework to make up. And she wants to hang out with friends every day. And we finally had this conversation just a couple of days ago where I said, we need to do the homework before we hang out. That's the limit. The homework's going to get done and then we can hang out with friends. It's not a consequence. It's not a punishment. It's not something I'm doing to try to control or manipulate her. This is going to serve you to create this boundary. Do you see the difference? This is going to help you thrive. We're doing it because it's the best thing for you. And because I didn't have this needy, graspy energy, she was able to say, you're right. Yeah, if I let this go much longer, I'm going to be in big trouble. And so we created this boundary, this rule for her for the next week or so that she's going to get her stuff caught up. But there was no negative energy. It didn't fracture the relationship. It was really beautiful. She really understood, hey, mom's here to take care of me. She's got my back. She wants what's best for me because I was clean in my energy. That's one of the things we learn with Connect Method parenting. So next thought that I want to present here is to have a connection mindset. When everything shifted for me during the baby powder blizzard, the kids' behavior shifted, but the situation itself didn't shift. There was still baby powder everywhere, still broke our DVD player. Our GameCube was still broken. It was covered in white. And All of that was the same. But because my perspective, my point of view, my thought went from this shouldn't be happening, I realized after the fact when I went back and did some digging that my thought went to this is what's happening and it's okay. Fighting against reality is something that we can try, but we're going to lose every time. That little nugget of wisdom came through in that moment. I gleaned it. Let's harvest that. Let's grow that. Let's nourish that thought. And it's served me so much over the years because when we can stop having this correction, and correction comes with this shouldn't be happening. I'm resisting reality. I'm pushing against what is. When I can calm my nervous system down, and there's multiple levels to this, but the first level is this is what's happening. And I can just allow it because me not allowing it doesn't change anything. So this is huge. This is huge. Does everyone get it? Okay. So it changed my perspective, which changed the emotional frequency. Call this resonance in science. The resonance I was putting out into the world, which is actually measurable, which is so amazing. I love that about emotions, measurable energy. So I was putting it out there. And then my children, I did not know any of this at the time, but reverse engineering all of this. My kids are receiving with their mirror neurons, hey, this is the energy mom's shifted into now. We can change. And our kids need us to co-regulate. Have you heard that phrase? Co-regulate with them, which means that I am helping them regulate their emotions by regulating myself and by holding on to my emotions and what I want to create so powerfully that they can then resonate with me. I was reading a book on this trip we just went a couple weeks ago with my kids. We were at the airport and my kids were getting books at the little store with the candy and the books, which I love. I'm always read. So we found some good books for them. And I picked up this Harvard Business Review book. It had the 10 most important articles that have been put in that journal about emotional intelligence. And they had this word. I loved it. That is a word I'm using from now on. It was called emotional contagion. Love it. Emotional contagion. And I've just been thinking about it ever since. I'm like, oh, that's what we can call it mirror neurons. We can call it resonance. We can call it emotional contagion. It doesn't matter. It's all of the same thing. But I love the idea of I have this emotion and it's going out and it's infecting my kids. Now, this works both ways. When I'm showing up and I am just flustered and angry and mad, that infects my environment. My children feel that. When I'm showing up and I'm able to have really amazing energy and feel compassion and empathy or even just acceptance to what is, that is what's infecting my reality. So what do we want to be infecting our reality? Okay, so it's what we do in response to our kids' behavior. That's the problem and the solution. Yes, the problem and the solution. So we are trying to manage the kids' behavior by offering them rewards. Yes, by giving them consequences, by ultimatums, all of the things to get them to do and say what we want. This is problematic because what rewards and punishments, I'm going to say it again, because this is so important for us to realize. And I see some of you guys, somebody just popped in. I'm a helicopter mom, a Southern girl. I get it. I'm not a Southern girl, but I was a helicopter demanding mother when my kids were little. I understand that energy. And here's what I want us all to understand is what rewards and punishments do is create compliance. And they can do that well, as long as we have the right reward or punishment. So if your goal is to get your kids to obey an order, that's the highest, loftiest goal you have, or to show up on time or do what they're told, then bribing and threatening them seem like they could be sensible strategies for you. But that's not what I find is the objective of any of the moms I work with. Their objective is long-term success, to light up their kids' intrinsic motivation, to help them become careful thinkers, self-directed learners, to support their kids in developing good values. And if that's your objective, then punishments and rewards are absolutely useless. In fact, they're worse than useless. They're actually counterproductive. They have shown that intrinsic motivation goes down, that defiance goes up. They become defended against us. We become less and less impactful in our ability to influence and impact them. When we're coming, we got to correct them. We got to fix them. We got to control them. So as soon as the reward and punishment or consequence is gone, the behavior changes right back. If we gave our kids $100 to clean the room, they'd be like, yes, sir, I'm going to do that right now. But chances are, as soon as that $100 is gone, they're back to their old ways. They have no reason to do it because we overrode their intrinsic motivation, overrode the power of the relationship by putting the $100 on the table. When we stop thinking we need to fix the kids, the fixing takes care of itself. And it's not that we go passive and we just throw up our hands, checking out here. You guys are all on your own. I'm just giving up all the all of the controls. Andy said, stop giving consequences so you guys just figure it out. No, that's not what I'm saying. But the art of a connection-based parenting framework, when understood and implemented, doesn't rely on punishments and rewards to fix any problem. You realize that's not even fixing the problem. That's actually making it worse. You're just compounding or delaying the problems. So why don't all parents put all of their energy into connection? Because, and I'm going to move to this pie chart, because we have this perceived control paradigm, which feels like this. 10% is what we feel like we have control over. 30% are things I might have control over. So those would be like chore charts, getting organized, knowing how to say the consequence, coming up with the right things. And then 60%, we feel like we don't have any control over. The 60% might be super high energy. They don't care about a clean room. They have really big emotions and get triggered easily. They get annoyed with their sister. They're a picky eater. They have a hard time settling down. And we're thinking that those are the things that are preventing us from creating the results we want in our life. So we spend all of this time and energy trying to get our chore chart organized. This was so me. Going to the dollar store and getting all these little trinkets for them to want to get so that they would do their chores or go to bed or whatever it was, trying to come up with some really good consequences that they would listen if they knew I was going to take away that thing. So we spend all of our time thinking about the wrong things, thinking about all of these things that we have no control over, feeling frustrated and hopeless, and thinking, I can't change anything. And none of those things will impact their ability to listen. So what I'm going to show you is the reality. 10% is what you don't have control over. 90% of the things for us to not yell, for us to show up and create those strong relationships, we have control over that. And I'm going to tell you what happens in that 90%. And this might be hard for some of you guys to believe, but this will set you free and change your parenting forever. We don't have control over our kids' behavior. That's in the 10%. We don't. They can do and say the things they want to do and say, but we have a heck of a lot more control over a lot of things that ultimately do create the foundation that will allow us to stop yelling for good. That's why we're all here, right? Stop yelling. Or maybe you're not a yeller, but you're a avoider. Or you don't want to be so passive. Or you just want to create great relationships or have more fun. You have a lot more control. And I say this out of service to you because it's the best news ever. This was when I started realizing this, and this is what that pivotal moment with the baby powder blizzard that started me realizing this. I thought I had no control. It's a big mess. And all of these factors that were out of my control are just done. The mess is there and the baby powder is all over and it's a disaster. And when I miraculously had this shift, it was, wait, you have control over the majority of what's going to happen as a result of this. You don't have control over the situation. It's neutral. It's there. Yes. But you have so much control over how this turns out. I shifted my thoughts and my energy, my emotional energy, and then my kids shifted and everything shifted. One of my amazing clients was telling me about an experience where the child was really upset to the point of yelling and throwing things and stuff. And the parent was telling me how by just putting the child in a place that was safe to have those behaviors, they have a room where there's things that can be thrown so that nothing's going to be broken. So there was a limit put in place. But then by holding the energy of compassion and breathing and really believing in the best in the child, within 10 minutes, this has happened 3 times in just the last 2 weeks, where this has escalated to this point. And by setting the limit, putting the child in a room that was contained and safe, so everyone would be safe, that the energy that this parent was having shifted the child so quickly that within 10 minutes, the child was calm. This is co-regulating. This is mirror neurons. This is that emotional contagion. It's so powerful. We have control over that. And that's the 90% of what we do have control over. The number one thing that impacts your child listening to you is safety and connection. So them feeling safe, them feeling like you're in charge, you know what you're doing, you have their back, you're there for them. And then connection, building a solid relationship, both in the moment when the off-track behavior is happening and outside of the moment, you being able to be safe in your own body, which is a big part when they're having off-track behavior. It's a big part of the equation. a lot of times it is so uncomfortable for us. Like they're erupting, they're yelling, the kids are fighting, and with lickety split, I cannot handle this uncomfortable feeling I'm having inside of myself. I need them to stop, because if they stop, then I'll feel better. Us being able to feel safe and do the work to hold those negative emotions and transmute them and turn them into something else and let them move through and complete that emotional cycle, the circle of big emotions that allows us to go through the whole journey of mad to sad, where we release the chemicals and our body surrenders and we go back to that state of equilibrium from being activated. So we do the work to figure out that for ourselves. And then our children get to learn that, and they get to feel that, and they get to experience that, and they get to be impacted by that, and they get to feel safe. Like mom is, I can tell, like I'm having this big emotional reaction and she's over there safe and grounded and feeling good. That's a gift. If you want to give your child the best gift in the world, give them the gift of an emotionally sound practice. You go into that for yourself and give them the experience of living with a parent who doesn't need their child to change, to feel safe, to feel calm, to feel connected, to feel confident. This is the work of Connect Method Parenting. Okay. Oh my gosh, I could talk a whole thing about that. All right, we're going to talk about 10 mistakes. We're going to go through these fairly quickly. It's looking like we're already past the hour mark. So you guys are awesome. Thanks so much for being here. I cannot wait to keep talking to you and teaching you this. This is my passion, my mission. So I told you around 90 minutes, so we'll hopefully keep it to 90, but it might go over. Who knows? And then you guys have questions. I'm here with you for the day. Okay, mistake number 1 is that we wing it. So why this happens is we don't have a clear process for handling off-track behavior or for connecting. And the way that the child experiences this, I don't think I've had any parent come in to work with me that has had a clear dialed in process for handling off-track behavior that's connective, that strengthens the relationship, not deteriorates it, and a connection plan outside of just hanging out with them. So it's totally common. And the way the child experiences this when we're winging it is that there's uncertainty on how things are going to go or how you're going to show up in different situations. How you know this is happening is the kids are negotiating with you, they're throwing a fit, they're pushing back, and you're not prepared for it. That's the thing, guys. We're like, I sure hope they don't throw a fit today. Instead of, they're probably going to throw a fit today when I tell them that it's time for bed because they have every other day and I'm prepared for it. So that's the difference. And how do we fix it? We follow a process, and I'm going to tell you my 5 steps to stop yelling process and the 3 CMP strategies and the psychology that I hold within myself, the beliefs that I hold within myself about my children. You need a clear, simple, doable plan that you can follow in different situations that come up so that you don't end up yelling or needing to jump into corrective consequences. You need a process for getting information, organizing that information, and acting on that information. And I'm going to give you mine today. We are going to come back and I'm going to share my process with you. Mistake number 2, we give them authority. You let them lead. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying you shouldn't collaborate with your kids, because collaboration is great, but there's a difference between collaborating and giving them authority. So giving them authority happens when you lack confidence or authority feels uncomfortable to you. So one of the biggest reasons this happens to a lot of parents is because we don't realize that our kids' nervous systems need us to be in charge so that they can feel safe. It's biological. It's an instinct. We just know as a child, I cannot take care of my needs. I need an adult who can do that for me. And when they have that relationship and they know they got me, they're figuring this out, that includes setting limits. So that's why those are important. Then they can rest, their nervous system can rest, and their nervous system and their body can focus on growing and maturing. And that happens because of our ability to just be in charge. We're filling that role so they don't have to fill that role. And our kids have this inner knowing, like I said, that they need this adult to take care of them to survive. And so if they sense that they don't have that need taken care of, then their nervous system kicks in. And this is what we often call the alpha child. They start to take control. It's a survival instinct. If no one else is doing it, I better take care of it. So if we're coming in really passive or nervous or worried, they're going to feel that. So you'll know this is happening because you won't feel like you have the most confidence or the strongest energy in the room. And I'm not talking about being dominating. That's not my vibe with Connect Method Parenting. However, I am saying come in with the most confidence. Come in with the strongest energy. Authority isn't about being bossy or loud or strong or big. It's about the way you're thinking and feeling. You're thinking, I've got this. I can figure this out. I'm going to learn what to do. I can take care of this. And what can cause you to step into a lack of authority is when you're beating yourself up because you're feeling crappy about yourself, when you don't understand how important it is for your child to know that they can rely on you, when you don't understand that structure of hierarchy that they need as a child, or when you're trying to get something from them, when they know mom is trying to get me to do something, get them to clean up, get them to go to bed on time, then it actually puts you in weaker energy, even if you're coming in and trying to be really strong. So how the child experiences this is the child has a lack of trust, respect, or confidence. It doesn't feel good for the child. And they could take control of the situation. They don't always, but that's one reflexive action that they could take. They go into alpha mode, and this is how they're compensating for the lack of trust and confidence that they can feel coming out of you. If you feel this when you're interacting with your child, you're going to know that something has happened. So go back and inspect what you're thinking or believing, because what they are doing is they're latching onto the control. They're trying to latch onto safety. They're trying to find a way to be safe. And they can respond by becoming that alpha child and by taking charge. Sometimes it will feel for them like stress or annoyance or worry or fear or anxiousness, or they might get bossy or they might be defiant. So how you'll know this is happening is they will direct you. They will take charge, or they will start trying to shut you down or put you in your place. Then sometimes we're trying to have that energy, but we're not really having an authority energy. We're now trying to prove that they have to listen to us, which is very different than coming in with confidence and authority. When we have confidence and authority, we don't mind that they push back because we can hold our own. We can keep our emotional self stable. But when we're coming in with a lack of authority or we're feeling nervous, we're going to either need to really prove it. So we go into defense mode. We're going to get really placid and worried, and we're going to pull back, which will just alarm them even more. So how do we fix this? You have to have the feeling of confidence and authority to lead, direct, and redirect them from a place of service, compassion, and love. You do this because you know that this will be the thing that will allow your child to feel safe and grow, that will allow them to want to listen to you. One of my tests to see if I'm feeling confident or feeling authority, and I have my clients do this, is I'll say, can you say something like, hey, I'm going to stop you right there. Or, hey, we're not going to do that. Setting a limit, a connective limit. Or, I know you're getting frustrated and that's totally okay. Or, I understand you don't like what I'm saying and I get that. Or we can stay in that place, but it's not to prove anything. We don't need them to agree with us. We don't need to get them to like what we're doing. We're just firm, compassionate limit. Then we hold that limit, which is something, one of the super tools that we learn inside of League as we learn these different skill sets. They culminate into us being able to show up like that. And we are not matching their emotional state. We're holding on to our own. We're accepting their behavior, making it neutral, the baby powder blizzard, the kids throwing or fighting or not going to bed, whatever the behavior is, that's their behavior. I don't condone it, but I can accept it. And I let them keep doing what they're doing, but I also set the limit. I can accept that this is what they're doing and I can set a limit. I'm not judging. Okay, let's go to the next one. We talk more than we listen. Okay, who's done that? Me. Because we're making it about us. We love to hear ourselves talk. We think we know the answers. I'm the parent, so you need to listen to me, that kind of tone. Or we're insecure and we think using more words will compensate for not knowing. We think information equals transformation. And we think they care that we have this right to say or do this. But what they care about is not, hey, mom's got the authority as a parent to boss me around or tell me, I told you so because I'm your parent. That doesn't mean anything to them. What they do care about is, do you care about me? Do you help me feel safe? Are you on the same team? So as the child, they're going to experience this as feeling unseen, unheard, misunderstood. They might get defended. They might feel overwhelmed. If we're talking a lot, I want you to realize that they can only absorb 20% of what we say. That's just the human brain. And if we're in fight or flight, which diminishes our ability to think and comprehend even more, but let's say on the high end, 20%. So that's why I say a 5 to 7 word limit. That's going to make all the difference. Our child also might feel apathetic or feel very surface level, like they're being talked to versus being in the process. So you know this has happened because you're not going to understand things from their point of view very well. You're going to not have great empathy. You're not going to understand the obstacles that are getting in the way of them listening. So We can't really understand what's causing that. I was just talking to one of the parents that I work with, and she was explaining how after having a conversation with why her child was having trouble obeying at this play date that they were at, that it was because of boredom. And that was such good information because she understood. She wasn't trying to lecture. She wasn't trying to teach. But when we're in this place, we're over explaining, over talking. We can't explain the solution simply and clearly. It's not obvious what's going on from their point of view. I want you to think of yourself like a doctor. So the patient in the doctor's office is telling you all the things that are going on for them, and the doctor's just quietly listening. And then after that, maybe asking some questions to get clarification and then creating a plan. So that's what I want us to think of. Less talking, more listening. A lot of times our children, when we're talking a lot, if they don't like it, they'll just say yes in the moment, but really they'll say no later. So they might say, yeah, I'll go pick up my room. And then they don't. That's a yes in the moment and a no later. So the way we fix it is we listen, we prompt with questions, we distill what is said, we present our solution or our ideas, or maybe reflect back to them what they just said simply, and maybe set a limit that's really short, 5 to 7 words if possible. Okay, mistake 4, we try to solve everything at once. Why? Because we believe that this is our one and only opportunity to do it all. We got to capitalize on this moment so they can learn and understand, and so we can teach them. So the child comes away from this experience feeling disregarded and misunderstood, maybe even internalizing this energy we have of like fix, 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 to think something's wrong with them. And how you'll know this has happened is there's a bit of solution or fix it greed, graspy energy. So the child argues, defends, disagrees. It turns into a lecture, and your child might say, enough already, I get it. Disconnection. The interaction goes longer than needed, and it ends without resolution or hope. So how do you fix it? You come up with a plan of action, you map it out, but you don't have to go drive on that yet. You just come up with a plan, you talk about it, and then you implement it later. Mistake 5, we're too passive, people pleasing. Why? Because we want them to like us. We think if they like us, then they'll listen to us, and we're afraid of offending or being wrong. But how this occurs to our child is that they don't feel safe. They don't feel safe. They're not sure if we know what we're doing. And so we lack transformation. Nothing changes as a result of the interaction. How we know this is happening? There's lack of respect. You feel yourself holding back. You're editing yourself. You're really uncomfortable with the emotions that are coming up. They don't get the feedback or the boundaries that they need to have the limits in place to help them fulfill their potential. The fix is you feel the feeling so you can be truthful to your child. Those uncomfortable emotions we were talking about before, you want to be able to feel them, so that even if you're feeling really uncomfortable or even really triggered when their children are fighting or they're saying no, that you can still say what you need to say without letting the emotions drive you, even if those emotions are triggery. So you calm your nervous system down so that you can feel safe and connected while doing it. Mistake 6, you match their emotional state. Why do we do this? Because you're letting their emotions lead. And a lot of times this is because you have unresolved emotional issues, or you have those nervous system stories that are lodged in your subconscious brain, or we're not seeing the big picture. And so what this does for the child is they have greater suffering, lack of clarity, and we can inadvertently invalidate their emotional state. Because sometimes when we get the frustration, we're frustrated and it's not okay, you're frustrated. And so we're not able to hold a space where they can process their emotions. That's really powerful to understand. And how you know this is happening is you're going to have an emotional reaction to something they said, like my sister was mean to me. You're going to have an emotional reaction that feels very charged. It's not empathy. You're in the pool with them, drowning in their story or emotions, and you're both going down for the count. So you're not able to show up the way you want to. You're feeling frustrated about the situation that they're presenting to you. You don't want to deal with it. You're upset that it's happening. So you start mirroring their emotions. You feel like it's unfair. You get sucked in, and so you're not really sure what to do. You feed the frenzy. The fix. Get more details about the situation or story. You have to believe that they can create a new result in their life, that this is something that they're capable of overcoming, and believe that you are capable of helping them create something new. Mistake 7 is you judge them because you're thinking about how what they're doing is affecting you, the pain it's causing you. This is causing you more work. Maybe you have a moral authority. I know better. Why would they be doing this? Or higher ground or one-up position. You think that you're smarter or wiser than them. Why don't they get this? So the child experiences this as there's something wrong with me. They feel judged. They feel manipulated. Maybe they feel shame or they feel worse about themselves. And how you know this is happening is that there's a defensiveness in the air. Everyone's not connecting. You're just up in arms. You have walls built. You're shutting down. They're avoiding you, or you're avoiding your child. And the fix is to connect and invest in the relationship, understand, meaning put yourself in their shoes, really try to understand what's going on for them, and believe they are doing their best. Meet them where they're at. Mistake 8, you make them responsible for your sufficiency, meaning you feeling like you're good or you're doing well or you're worthy. And why this happens is because you're not filling yourself up. You're not taking care of yourself. You're not believing that you're capable. You're believing their behavior equal to your worth. So better behavior, better worth, bad behavior, bad worth. You're rating yourself based on their behavior. And this feels really heavy to the child. They might feel manipulated. They might feel pressured. We do not want that. How we know it's happened is they're going to tell you what you want to hear, but then they won't do it. That's one of the possibilities. They're going to avoid you. They'll match your emotional state. They'll try to take care of you. It just feels crappy. And you feel crappy because you know it's not their job to make you feel better, but you're trying to control and manipulate their behavior so that you feel better. If you guys would just be more kind, then I'll feel better, instead of really taking that responsibility for yourself, saying, I got to figure out how to look at me and my own nervous system so that I can handle you guys in whatever behavior state you're in. So we fix it by finding the feeling of sufficiency and worthiness for yourself, detaching your sufficiency or worthiness from your kid's behavior, emotions, or results. And you're going to release expectation. You're going to make peace with letting the outcome be whatever it needs to be. It's totally fine. Doesn't mean anything. And you're going to redefine what success is. Success is how you show up, how you handle situations, not what your kids are doing. It's very, very different. And it's really important we get that straight, because then our kids will feel free. When we get that straight in our head, everything changes, because our kids will feel this lightness and this freedom, and we will show up so much better, and they're going to listen so much better. And we're not going to yell because we're not defining ourselves by them and what they're doing. Mistake 9, we value corrective, punitive consequences. So this happens because you think correction and punishment is something you have to do. It's this necessary evil. And you think your child's going to take advantage of you if you don't give them a consequence. You don't realize how destructive this is to their nervous system and to the relationship and to their opinion of themselves and to their inner self-talk. You don't realize that there's another option called connective limits that you can do that actually improve the relationships, that are deeply connective and that build the trust. You just don't know that. So you think you have to hold on to them, and you think the kids are just going to run wild if you don't, and you're going to be this awful parent, not responsible. The child experiences this as being talked to, feeling in trouble when we're constantly trying to fix them. They feel controlled. They feel defiant. They don't feel like they are heard. They don't feel like we get them. And they can be really critical of themselves, or they'll be really defended against us and be like, you suck. I don't want to listen to you. They can push against us, or they can push against themselves, critical of themselves or critical towards us. How you know this is happening is you don't feel transformation or connection, and neither do they. They're unenthusiastic. It's unresolved. Everyone feels unresourceful at the end. We don't feel like we're going to be able to problem solve this. And you fix this by treating this like the first, last, and only chance you have to connect with them. You guys, if you do that, your world is going to change. And the last mistake is that you get triggered when they say no or push back. And why this happens is because we're attached to the yes. We're like, I need them to say yes. I need them to comply, because our worth is so tied into it. We can't be attached to the yes. We can't be attached to their behavior. We got to let that go. We have to. They got to be their own people. It's going to bring you so much freedom and let you show up in a way you can respect. It's going to bring the locus of control back to you. So don't be attached to the yes. You've got to be uncomfortable and be okay being uncomfortable when they don't comply. It's going to feel uncomfortable when they say no, or they say, Mom, that's stupid, or when the toddler throws the big fit on the floor. And you got to be okay with that. One of the reasons it happens is because we are uncomfortable when they don't comply, and we're taking the moral high ground. We're trying to fix them so they have a good life. And don't they know how bad life will be if they don't listen and they don't make this decision? So we're not able to understand that this tug of war, especially as they get to be teenagers, this pulling away is part of it. And if we want to have more impact and influence, we've got to not be attached to the yes. We've got to be okay. How you know this is happening is you're going to feel out of control. Your child is going to push back. The tug of war, It's not going to create resolution. You're going to feel no resolution, no understanding. You're going to leave feeling worse, not better. You're going to have lower energy, not higher energy. You're not going to be resourceful. You're not going to be able to be problem solving, lack of connection and empathy. How you fix this is understand the no. Be okay when they push back. Be okay with the off track behavior, the tantrums, the eye rolling. I'm not saying you condone it or yes, this is the best thing ever, but I am saying like anticipate it, welcome it in, and be prepared for how you want to show up when it happens. You got to have a plan. You got to have a new way of thinking about it. It starts with that. So approach with the belief, I've got this. I've got you. We're on the same team. And there's a framework I teach called How to Disagree Appropriately, which is really allowing them to know, oh, I don't always have to just be a yes man to mom or dad. And we teach them how to do that. We can practice it. It's powerful. Our job as a parent is to move our child towards things that create a net positive experience in their life. So things that do not create net positive experiences, them not having rules or boundaries or consistency, them not having rules, boundaries, or consistency does not create a net positive experience for them. Them not learning how to work or be uncomfortable, them not being seen and heard, them not learning to welcome in and feel all these emotions, them thinking that their worth or acceptance is based on their behavior, them having to take charge because we are being passive, them feeling controlled because we're worried and being authoritative because we can't trust the power of connection. We need them to validate our worthiness by how they behave. Them thinking that they should seek temporary comfort versus emotional growth and health. So those are not going to serve them. That's not what we're going to do here. We're going to help them have rules and boundaries. We're going to learn to work hard. We're going to see them. We're going to let them feel their emotions. We're going to know their acceptance is independent of their behavior. They are not their emotions or their behavior. Like they say in Spanish, I have frustration. We're going to separate that for them so they can live a healthy life, which is what we all want. So I told you I was going to share with you my psychology of parenting, which are really just the thoughts that I believe about parenting. I'm going to go through those. I believe in them regardless of their behavior. I know my own limits. If I have not slept well, if I am sick, if I'm just having an angsty day because I'm on my period or something, I'm going to respect that about myself. I'm going to make sure people are safe, but I'm not going to overstep my capacity for that day. Sufficiency works. When I am building myself up and taking care of my own emotional needs, it makes an immense difference in my parenting and in my life. It gets harder before it gets easier for both the parent and the child as we're making transitions, as we're growing, as we're going through ages and stages, holding safety or holding space really to create safety for their emotions, for their no's, for them to just be a human, powerful, allowing for all the emotions, frustration, upset, anger is something I believe in deeply, seeing and hearing them, establishing the working relationship, realizing that all of us want to be respected. Doesn't mean I have to agree with them, but I want to know that they are seen and heard. I want to listen profoundly and deeply. I want to energize their greatness, which is all of these are things we talk about as we dive more into Connect Method parenting. Energizing their greatness is about me training my brain to look for what's working instead of what's not working. Set connective limits, which is the culmination, the peak of Mount Everest, when we can understand and we've done the work to prepare ourselves to be able to hold a calm, connected, confident, empathetic, compassionate energy, even when they are pushing the boundaries or having a reaction that's previously been triggering for us. Bridge the relationship, always putting that emphasis on the next point of relationship, knowing that no matter what they do or say, the relationship is solid and good. I assume an immense amount of responsibility, not with criticalness, but with curiosity. I'm always saying, how did I contribute to that experience with my child? What could I have done better? And then I'm on it to inspect it. And if needed, I have a conversation with them to be honest about it. I'm the watcher of my thoughts. I'm honestly saying to myself, okay, there's that emotion coming inside of me. Okay, where did that come from? We have a tool inside of League called Steer that breaks this down beautifully. I'll talk about it at the end. And that there's no rush to the finish line. I was always like, rush, 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 rush. We got to finish. We got to finish. I'm going to arrive at being the parent I want to be. It's a journey. Life is a journey, and I'm constantly evolving. My kids are changing. I'm needing to grow new skills. So I call it social versus connected. Social is I have this desire to be liked and accepted. But when I'm connected, I'm willing to not be liked in the moment. Big difference. Social is I'm people pleasing. I'm trying to not ruffle any feathers. And with connected parenting, we are telling the truth. Social, I'm taking sides. I get sucked into the story. Oh my gosh, I can't believe your brother did that. Or you're really right. Your room is a mess. You're really messy. And connected is I don't take sides. I just listen and hear and evaluate. Social, I get sucked into the story and the emotions, like I just said. And then the connected is I let them explain so that I can understand and give needed insight and direction. Social is offer advice and connected is offer solutions. So good. Oh my gosh. I wish I'd had this 16 years ago. I wanted to come up with an example. Let's say your child doesn't want to do chores. They're like, it's unfair. This may have happened in my home. Unfair. None of my friends do it. They're arguing with you. They're having a meltdown or a tantrum or some big emotional response. They refuse to do their chores. They walk out of the room or they lay on the floor and they cry or they won't comply. And you're starting to feel frustrated and it's rising. And here's the 5 steps to stop yelling. Step 1, do no harm. Make sure everyone is safe before you address the situation. Remind yourself, I do not have to capitalize on this to make sure everyone learns a lesson. I do not need to make sure they're clear on how they stepped over the boundaries. We're comfortable and confident and calm. We're not in that frenzied state. We're just, okay, does anybody need to be moved so that they're not going to be physically harmed right now or emotionally harmed? And we take care of that. Do no harm. And then we're going to recognize that the behavior is not the problem. Your brain's probably going to say the behavior is the problem. I need to stop the behavior, their behavior right now. I'm feeling so terrible inside of myself. I need to stop their behavior, but it's just information. So we need to understand what's going on inside of our brain and body. What am I thinking and feeling so that I can understand what's going on in their brain and body so that I can dip into that psychology of parenting and have empathy. I can pause and get present. I can explore the situation deeper. I can affirm my nervous system. I can create a new way of looking at it. I can execute on my plan. This is called my daily piece. We're going to talk about that. It's a tool we use in League, part of Connect Method Parenting, to really implement this. So we're going to really remember my interpretation of the behaviors is really what I want to look at. The behavior in and of itself is not the problem. It's information. And then I'm going to embrace and accept the emotions that are coming up inside of me, especially at the beginning when you're doing this. If it has been a situation that has been really triggering and you've tended to yell or have an activated nervous system response, you are going to feel pretty terrible inside. The emotions inside your body are going to be screaming at you. And they are going to say, you need to fix this right now. Get them to stop so that you stop feeling so crappy. And what you're going to have to do instead is say, this emotion inside of me is information. It's a response to my nervous system reaction. It's a story I have. I'm going to look into it more. But for right now, I'm just going to sit with the emotion and realize it's safe to feel angry or it's safe to feel frustrated. It's not my child's responsibility to make me feel better. And then that is going to be magic. Oh my gosh. If you even just do that much, guys, it's going to be magic. And then you're going to step 4 is listen. It's lean in, listen, and learn. Said understand, but same thing. I like learn. I should have said learn because I like the alliteration. Lean in, listen, and learn. So you're going to lean in. What information do you need? What else is happening here? With a nervous system that's regulated, you can actually pick up on what's happening. And you can start sending out with your mirror neurons that emotional contagion that will allow your child to feel first safe where they are, but also hopefully get infected with this emotion of safety, which is the most important thing, safety and connection for them to want to listen to you. And then you're going to execute on your plan. And a lot of times when I'm working with clients, we come up with a 3x5 card plan that you put in your back pocket that you pull out when situations like this arise. This is what I did. This is why I have them do it because it was so helpful for me. At first, you're going to still get activated. There's no magic pill I can give you. I wish there was. That would let you just be in a zen, calm state, but you're not. You're going to be a little bit like, I'm trying to do better. And maybe you'll even yell for the first 20 times. That's okay. You're going to keep learning to build that new neural pathway. You're going to have a plan. You're going to think about it in retrospect. Oh, if I could have thought this and I could have felt this way, I could have responded differently. And this could have been the result. And so we're going to create a little plan. We're going to write it out. Eventually, you're going to be able to pull out that little plan and you're going to say, oh, I need to remember behavior as information. And I really, these 5 steps, I'm going to do no harm and remember behavior as information. I'm going to embrace the emotions inside of me. And then I'm going to lean in, listen, and learn. And then I'm going to execute any plan that I might have. It transitions into a working relationship and feeling firm and compassionate when you're giving limits, emotional intelligence. The kids are going to want to listen. You're going to be able to recover quickly, relationship intact, more trust. more confidence. We've done the 5 steps to stop yelling. I shared the psychology of parenting that I have for myself, the mistakes that we commonly make that are getting in the way. And now we're going to talk about the 3 CMP strategies, which are the 3 things. After teaching this to thousands, personally working with hundreds, I have found that it's really these 3 things. Looking at the science, looking at the studies, looking at developmental psychology, that it's really these 3 things that if we are doing regularly, your parenting will change. It's understanding your own behavior so that you can learn what's going on for you so you can leave room for your kids. Consistently connecting, which is about investing in the relationship in a very intentional way where you're really showing up. You're not just hanging out in the same room. You're really showing up and investing in the relationship with the mindset that will allow trust and safety to build in connection. And you're choosing closeness, which is that Mount Everest peak event. It's the culmination of all of the things we learned so that we can create a different way of handling off-track behavior. Okay. So those are the 3 strategies. They're woven in everything I teach, everything I talk about. It really distills down into these 3 strategies that we focus on. We come up with the 3 strategy plans when we're at a really problematic behavior. Okay, what am I doing to understand my own behavior so I can leave room for theirs? How do I have that ownership? I'm looking at how I'm contributing. How am I consistently connecting with my kids? How do I have that connection plan? And how am I then able to set a connective limit as a result of the other work I've done in the moment, calm that nervous system down and really change the way I react in the moment? If it's not working, it's just simply, it's not that anything's wrong. It's just that you're not dipping into, oh my gosh, that's so funny. I'm going to correct this right now. It's just that you're not dipping into connective parenting. Oh no, that's right. You're dipping in. If it's not working, I was right. You're dipping into corrective parenting. I misread my own notes here. So you're making one of the 10 common parenting mistakes I went over. You haven't implemented the 3 CMP strategies or 5 steps to stop yelling process, or your parenting psychology is off. And the solution is simple, doable, connect method parenting. That is the end of the teaching. Hey, so what'd you think? Wasn't that a fun workshop? I'm glad we decided to replay it on the podcast. And if you liked it, I want to make sure you know about the last parenting pivot we're doing this year. It's going to start October 7th. But we've already opened up the application process for people to start reserving their spots because there is a limited amount of spots and the demand has gone up every single time. So we're giving ourselves and you more time to apply, to get accepted. And then we're doing something different this time. We are preparing you just really slowly and powerfully before we start the pivot October 7th. So get your applications in now if you're wanting to learn more about how to implement a connective way of parenting, and then you want help so you actually do it. The new neural pathways are created. The new way of being is created. You know what to do when the off-track behavior comes up because it's going to come up. It's going to come up. We need to know what to do when the off-track behavior presents itself. So jump over to CMP, which stands for Connect Method Parenting.works, because man alive, does it work, /pivot. And you'll get all of the details will be on the page about the pivot, how to apply, get your application in. We're going to be reviewing those applications, letting people know how they can secure their spot, and then preparing you, getting you ready with some really fun bonuses and extra juicy support to prepare you so that you are ready to hit the ground running once we officially begin on October 7th. So if you have any questions, shoot us an email. But if you just look in the show notes, I'll drop this link there too. It's cmp.works/pivot, and you'll get all the info you need right on that page. Hope to see you there. And until then, go connect your face off with your kids, and we'll talk to you in the next episode, which will probably be in a few days from now. See you later, guys. Bye. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, come check out League, my Connect Method parenting coaching program, where we take this material and we apply it using my proven formula. Head over to cmp.works/join.